2.5 months ago, the literary void attached itself to my window. And in that entire time, it has not eaten a single book. Is that about to change? Is Magpie Murders by Anthony Horowitz going to be the first? You're just going to have to stick around and find out. Okay. Voidy and I have come to a deal. The entire time we have our discussion, Voidy's not going to touch the book. But as soon as I'm done, I have to make a decision. And Voidy's kind of hungry. So I would normally tell you at this point, jump to sometime below if you didn't want spoilers. But I don't have any spoilers. My summary is spoiler free. So let's just dig in, shall we? Magpie Murders involves an inner and outer form. The outer form follows Susan Ryeland, an editor at Cloverleaf Books. She edits the Alan Conway Atticus Finch novels. And the inner form is the last Atticus Finch novel, titled Magpie Murders. So what's the mystery on the outer form? Well, Alan Conway has been murdered, and the last chapter of the last Atticus Finch novel is missing. And so Susan Ryeland goes looking for this last chapter. Voidy, you know what I just realized? We forgot to change the background to, match the novel. Let's see. The book is set in the English countryside in a manor house that has a tower. Can you do that? Cool. Okay, let's continue. Now, the inner novel follows Atticus Finch as he's investigating 3 different deaths. There's the death of a young boy who drowned at Pye Hall about 12 years before the events of the novel. And then there's the death of his mother at the beginning of the last Atticus Finch novel. She tripped down the stairs while she was cleaning, supposedly. Then there is the death of Sir Magnus Pye, the Lord at Pye Hall. He's killed incredibly brutally, basically beheaded from behind. Ugh. The entire inner mystery reads a lot like an Agatha Christie's Poirot. You have an assistant who's always reaching the wrong conclusions. You have an inspector who's in way over his head. You have a girl who wants to marry the surviving son of the woman who fell down the stairs, who's also the brother of the boy who drowned 12 years ago. And then there's a groundskeeper who's a pedophile who didn't like the 2 boys when they were growing up. Oh, and did I forget to mention that the entire town wanted to have Sir Magnus killed because he was developing Dingle Dell into this strip of townhouses? So, yeah, there's a lot of people with a motive. Now, the plot of the outer novel is kind of what I already told you earlier. You have Susan Ryeland, who's investigating the death of Alan Conway, who wrote the last Atticus Finch novel. The last chapter is missing. This is why Susan Ryeland is even investigating anything. And then as she's going around and talking to people and figuring out who Alan Conway was as a person, which, wasn't great, she realizes he wrote everybody into this novel. I mean, everybody she meets is somehow in Magpie Murders. Eventually, Susan does solve the murder. It comes down to a chance encounter that she has that, if it hadn't happened, she probably wouldn't have been able to solve. Even though the solution came because of a tone shift that, her being an editor, she should definitely have caught. And then, it also almost costs her life. I mean, the stakes are really high. Did I miss anything? No, I think that's basically all you need to know. So, what worked? I gotta say, I love the idea of Magpie Murders. An editor investigating the death of a famous writer client. The last chapter is missing. It's the key to solving the entire thing. That's kind of cool, especially that he manages to create a mystery that doesn't involve a CSI. I mean, there's an investigator, sure, but he's not the one who solves the case. In a lot of contemporary novels, that doesn't seem like it's possible. You almost have to have a CSI because we have those in real life. They investigate crimes all over the place. And so he manages to do this and come up with a murder that only an editor can solve. And I think that's kind of cool. Now, Susan is an editor. And as an editor, she understands story. So she's a person in a story talking about the craft of a story. I think you get where I'm going here. This has a metafiction quality. You know, there's times where I think it works, there's times where I think it doesn't. On the whole, I tend to kind of like metafiction. Maybe it's the fact that I am a writer too, and I just like to see what other people are doing. But at times it's great fun. Other times it's a little too cheeky, and I wonder if Anthony Horowitz is stepping on himself. But overall, the metafiction, I think that's a plus. It's kind of cool. So, are there other things that I think worked? Yeah, probably. Am I going to talk about them? No. Why? Because this thing has been bothering me for weeks, and I need to get to what didn't work with this book. So, what's the big problem? There isn't one. There isn't one overarching big problem with this novel. Technically, it's very strong. Anthony Horowitz is a pretty good writer. He has a long career. He has good editors. And so, for the most part, technical issues are not present. There is one really technical thing that kind of bugs me. There's a giant tone shift in Susan's POV. It comes after she does this digest of who she thinks committed the inner murder. She's super casual before that point, and then she introduces herself and becomes very formal, and then goes back to being super casual. It's a tone shift problem that really could be solved pretty quickly, and I kind of wonder why it wasn't, but at the same time, it's not enough to like completely make me focus on that as the issue. So if it's not a technical issue, is it a structural one? I have two structural issues with this novel. The first is the page numbering. Why are the page numberings not going in some monotonically increasing fashion? Tell me that. Huh? Well, the answer is that Susan Ryeland, but Anthony Horowitz is inviting you to go back to the inner novel and look at it. And so she references page numbers in the inner novel, and those page numbers are different from her page numbers because that's how you know what the page number is. Okay. As much as I don't like the page numbering, I'll let it slide. But what's the second technical issue, right? Or not technical issue, structural issue. Well, the freaking entire inner novel is given to you, and then you have the entire outer novel. It's almost like you have two different novels. A better practice is usually to interweave the two novels to sort of, pair them up. And especially since there's so much mirroring happening between Susan's experience with all the people and Magpie Murders with Atticus Finch, it almost begs you to just interweave them together. As Susan's investigating, we get a little bit more of the inner novel, then we come back out to Susan and kind of see how Atticus Finch journeys along just like Susan does. But that's not what happens. We get the entire inner and then the entire outer. It's a structural issue that, I almost think that that's like the key issue. But again, because it's craft and because it's writing and reading and we're smart people, I guess I can get past it. Essentially, it's not enough on its own to make me not like Magpie Murders. Everything I've said so far is not enough. That's all stuff that I could overlook, especially if there was like a really strong character driving this. So I have to think. What is the problem with Magpie Murders? Maybe it's this. That you don't have the first person narration being filtered through Susan Ryeland's POV, right? So we get info dumps all over the place. We get like verbatim excerpts of Susan's conversations. We have to go and read the inner novel and draw our own conclusions aside from what Susan thinks. And so yeah, so maybe it's that it's not filtered, except one problem. It is filtered. It is filtered. We're constantly getting Susan's POV on what she thinks and who she's talking to, what she thinks about who she's talking to, how her thoughts on who maybe killed him develop and change. And so it is filtered, right? It is filtered. I thought that maybe it wasn't, but it is. Okay. Maybe it's this. Maybe it's the fact that we almost explicitly know that Susan is going to be okay, right? She has a warning. She tells us that she's basically alive. You know, the events of her story take place 2 years in the past for her from when she's writing it. So maybe it's that, right? Yeah, but again, maybe it's not. Because you see, yeah, the form itself dictates almost that we're going to get a solution. And so explicitly stating that Susan does solve this and it changes her life isn't unnecessary. But it's kind of a minor one, right? Like, it's not a super big issue. Normally, you'd want to rely just on the form itself. That's dictating that we're going to solve the murder. But I mean, explicitly saying, like, yeah, I'm going to solve this murder, it doesn't take away that much. I mean, really, it doesn't. You're expecting it to happen. So it's sort of just the stating of an expectation. Again, that's not enough. That's not enough. Even with combined with everything else yet, that is not enough. Okay, maybe it's the part of the metafiction where we get Susan telling us about craft norms that Anthony Horowitz isn't following, like stating her name 200 and something pages into the novel. Yeah, it bothers me, but like on its own, that's not enough, really. Okay, she didn't say what her name was for 200 pages. Like, are you really gonna hate a novel that does a bunch of other really good stuff? No, not really. But then I think about it, and then I start to wonder if it is enough. If all of it together is enough. And that's why I don't like Magpie Murders. You see, because I realized something. If you have one glaring flaw that stands out above all the rest, it kind of draws attention away from the minor flaws. But if you don't have a glaring flaw, all the minor flaws begin to shine through. Like a nighttime scene full of stars, they paint a picture. And the picture here is, it could be better. It could be better. Ultimately, this novel is really, really close to where I need it to be to like it. But there's all these little things that together keep it from crossing the finish line. And so, Voidy. I'm left thinking, I don't like Magpie Murders. Okay, hold on. Okay, Voidy, I know you want to eat this book. Oh, I know. And I know I said that as soon as I was done, we're going to have to draw a conclusion. Oh! Okay, well, Voidy just did that. Okay. So, there you go. That's the first book in the literary void. Magpie Murders by Anthony Horowitz. Yeah, except, hold on, Voidy, hold on. I want to say one thing. I wrote my critique before I watched the TV show for Magpie Murders. And the TV show, I thought, was going to be impossible. I mean, how are you going to adapt a story where you give the entire inner novel and then the entire outer novel? I mean, that's just not going to work for TV. But then I watch it. And a lot of the little issues that I have with the book have been solved. Susan's a much more interesting character. The plots are interwoven, like I said, and it makes me think something else, that I love the TV show. I thought the TV show was great because it did all the things I wanted to have changed from the novel. And so, Voidy, I know that you get to keep the book, but you don't get the TV show. You don't get the TV show. I love the TV show, didn't like the book. It's one of the few instances where this is the case. Most of the time I like the book more than the TV show or the movie. But here, the TV show is solid. Go watch the TV show. It's worth it. So what's next? What's the next book that will be tempted in front of Voidy as if it's... Oh! Sarah J. Maas, Throne of Glass. I put out a YouTube poll. I give you 4 options, and that's what you picked. So, there you go. Is Voidy going to eat it? Is it going to be saved? You'll have to find out next time right here on LTM. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And then I want to do a quick shout out to the artists who have helped me in this video. I go to Pexels and I pull videos and images from Pexels to use in my work. And I want to thank you. So Skylar Ewing, you created the image of the manor house. Thank you so much. And then Oleg Gimalinsky, you created the background that is Voidy. And because I have used this in multiple videos, I want to thank you. And I sent you $40. So like, I hope that helps. I hope it's like, you know, keeps you uploading your work. It's great. Thank you so much. If you'd like to read my full critique of Magpie Murders, go to learningtomaster.com. I put the critiques of all the books that I read and critique up there. So learningtomaster.com is where you can find them. Until next time, I'll catch you right here on LTM.